All right, guys, I think we are ready to roll. So, Frank, if you'd like to do an opening statement, that would be great. And then a reminder to everyone to also please just say your name when you're asking your question. Thanks, everyone.
Obviously, haven't had a chance to do a public closing of the season because the season really is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but close to it, given the times that we're all in. But looking forward to spending some time with you guys that have lived it with us, and maybe using this moment to give our fans and everyone that cares about the Gamecocks and our team and our school and our players and so forth a little bit of time to kind of step away from the life that we're all being forced to live right now, and give us a little bit of hope and hopefully something to smile and talk about other than the coronavirus.
Frank, it's Dave. Again, thanks for doing this. With how this kind of developed, have you had a chance to hold your end of season meetings with guys? Has anybody expressed their wish to transfer?
Dave, you just kind of went right at the transfer thing right away. Like, holy cow! I mean, can we deal with the meetings first? I have not had a chance to meet with players individually. I mean, I've been communicating with them, and over the past week, there's so much unknown. Originally, we thought maybe there was a chance that guys can be back by April 15th, and then we can have them then. But now we were just made aware halfway through last week that campus is pretty much shut down to the end of the semester. So I'm gonna try and do what I'm doing with you guys right now with each individual player. I'm not a fan of doing these conversations on the phone or on Skype or whatever. I like doing these meetings in person. But no, I have not had the end of year meetings, and to answer the blunt question at the end, no, I have no idea of any transfer situations right now.
Frank, this is Pete at AP. First of all, how are you and your family doing? How are the guys doing? I guess you've been in contact with your staff. Is everybody okay with what we're all going through?
Yeah, Pete, it's we're all dealing with an unknown, and it's you're told to stay home for 2, 3, 4 days. It's no big deal. It's just like spending a weekend at home. But when you're basically, I know I'm going on since last Saturday, so 9 days or whatever, where we pretty much shacked up here at the house, and only left the house to maybe go to a grocery store and pick up some to-go food for the family. Trying to, you got 3 kids, different ages from 12 all the way to 21, and the 21-year-old is he's used to being on his own now, and he's starting to bounce off the walls, and he wants to work out, and he wants to get around people, and trying to manage that dynamic, and and then it's as children, they always look at you as the father, and one of our biggest responsibilities is to always give them hope and give them guidance as to what's in front of them. In this difficult time, we have no idea what's in front of us. We get, all we got is hope and faith, and we have to maintain those two things, and that's what I've been trying to share with them. And you start running out of stuff to do at the house, but you know what? It's I think it's funny because you want it to be a great bonding time, but yet kids are so independent because of all these gadgets that we have, that they're just kind of on their own, even though they're in the house, and you have to force them into conversations. And so it's been interesting. Same thing with the staff. I mean, we've talked almost daily. We all have to be careful. Some people are are still trying to have staff meetings. I'm like, why can't we just have a conversation on the phone? Because this is a serious matter, and the last thing we need to do is, because this didn't just start a month ago. This didn't start 6 weeks ago. This didn't start 3 months ago. This, in my opinion, this is something that's been going on since last summer sometime, and we're just starting to realize it now because people started to pass and people started to test and abroad, and then eventually we said, well, I guess we got to do the same thing, and now we're starting to find out that this side of the world's infected too, and so it's just so much unknown that makes no sense for somebody to get to be sick and not know it, and then get someone else sick, and then that other person might not be able to overcome the sickness. It's a guilt that you have to live with the rest of your life, and it's not one that I'm prepared to expose anyone that's a part of an organization to right now. Appreciate you asking that. A little nicer than Dave came at me with the transfer stuff right away.
Frank, this is Jeff Bowens from Spurs and Feathers. You've always really good about teaching life lessons to your kids and using basketball as a way to do that. What's your message to them at a time like this?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing I'm telling my children. This week, we like I said last week sometime, or the week before, the last 10 days seems like 10 years. But we group text, the players, and everyone on my staff has been doing that so we can stay connected with those guys as much as possible. Message is kind of similar to what I'm telling, my kids, and the responsibility that we have to stay safe, not just for ourselves, but to keep the people in our family safe. This is not the time to go to some weight room or go to some gym and play basketball, or because you don't know, and you don't know who's sick, you don't know who's been where. There's no way to track which one of them has had a family member or a neighbor or something that was abroad, and so there's so much unknown in all this that this is the time to just be patient, focus in. Right now, my biggest concern right now with our players is not the basketball. That stuff to me is make sure that they understand that they stay home because they owe it to their parents to make sure that they don't get sick so they don't get their parents sick. Because we're all susceptible to this, but obviously the older we are, the more complicated this sickness can be. At least that's what the stats are showing. And then the other part is today's the first day of virtual learning for our players. So making sure that they, because this is brand new, the virtual learning. I mean, some of them might have had an internet course or distance learning, but not all of them have. And then my biggest concern is the tutoring part of it, making sure that learning specialists can still connect with our players, and our staff at the Doty, Maria Hickman, Rochelle Robinson, the two that are directly responsible for our guys. They do an unbelievable job, and they're unbelievably committed to trying to make this work for our guys.
Hey, Frank, this is Ben from the state. I know when this started, the option was given to some players to be able to stay on campus if they wanted. Have any of your guys taken that up, or have they kind of all gone home?
Yeah, that original option was never really on the table. There was a lot of unknown on the table. The only ones that had the opportunity was for unconventional circumstances. Mike Kotsar, because he hurt his shoulder late in the year and he needed shoulder surgery, and the fact that home is Estonia, he's been given special permission to still be around, and then Mike has to be very careful and very responsible with keeping himself safe through this whole process, because then Mark Roger, our trainer, that's who Mike is allowed to meet to rehab. So Mark, our trainer, has the ability to go on campus just to meet with Mike Kotsar right now. Another one is Alonzo Frank. He's got to have a minor procedure done to his knee. And we're not sure when that's going to be, but it's probably going to be before the end of the month. So whenever he does that, he will also have the ability to be on campus while he's rehabbing the knee. But that should be a small window. That shouldn't be a big window like Coach our situation.
Hey, Coach. This is Chantel with Sports Illustrated. I know spring sports were granted waivers to extend eligibility. Has the NCAA made it known whether or not they're going to give any provisions for winter sports yet?
No, we have not heard. We have not heard, and that's a delicate situation. That's a little different than spring sports, where some people didn't get their season started, or maybe just played a third or a fourth of their season, and our sports. I'll speak for men's basketball. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but the majority of seniors actually completed their careers. It's not like they're missing out on any games. And then there was a small percentage of seniors that were going to have an opportunity to play in postseason basketball, and making a drastic decision for a small percentage that's going to impact. I don't know how you grant the ones that maybe had a chance of playing postseason eligibility, and then the ones that weren't going to play in postseason, they're not granted eligibility. I don't know. I'm struggling with that right now myself, and I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm speaking for myself. But I get it. That's a hard decision, and it's a decision that eventually has to be made.
Hey, Frank, this is Colin. I guess you kind of talked about Mike a little bit. Have you gotten the chance to kind of talk to him and hash things out about how he's feeling and how he's doing, I guess, physically?
Yeah, I actually, his surgery was last Tuesday. And I went in, I had to get something out of my office because, we're not allowed to stay in the building. If we need something, we can go get it and come back. So I went in when I knew he was in there with Mark, rehabbing. I'm pretty sure it was Thursday. And just spent 5 minutes with him. He was in good spirits. Obviously, he was in a real frustrating place when it happened right before the conference tournament. And it was really, really difficult as a coach to see something like that happen. Because at the time, we had no idea that the season was going to get shut down. But to be around him the other day, his spirits were completely different. He was in a real good place, and now he's dealing with the rehabilitation process, and which, as a guy that's been through knee surgery 7 times, that's never fun. It's but Mike's been through it before. He had hurt his other shoulder 6 years ago. I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was 6 years ago, and suffered a very similar injury in the other shoulder. So it's something he's been through before. So at least he knows what's in front of him.
Frank, this is Jeff again. Looking back a couple of weeks ago, how did your team handle it when you were told that the SEC tournament was over and you had to go home? What was that moment like when you had to tell the team that?
Yeah, Jeff. We were supposed to play on a Thursday night, and Wednesday, while I was scouting, I was at the arena scouting the Vanderbilt Arkansas game. I'm sitting there scouting that game, and I was already having mixed emotions because me personally, just being around so many people, and it's when this whole awareness to what was getting ready to happen was really, really starting to kick up to a different level here in our country. But so I was having reservations, and I said it publicly. We're husbands and we're fathers, and then we're caretakers of these young men that other people entrust us with. And I felt an obligation to be around my family, be around my care for my mother, my wife, my children who are behind, and and there's a certain level of whatever going on, that uncertainty. That I needed to be there for them, and my staff just like them, and then is the players. I mean, was exposing them to sickness worth playing a game? I don't think it is, but those were all the thoughts that were going through my mind Wednesday night. And then Thursday morning, I had not asked the players how they felt about it. Thursday morning, we woke up and it was going to be business as usual. And then I got a phone call from Ray Tanner and said, "Hey, something might be getting ready to happen. I'll keep you posted." And before lunchtime, I got the call that it was out the window, and which I was at peace with. I thought it was. I commend Commissioner Sankey for making the decision he made, because it's difficult for sports, but it was the right one for life. And then immediately was making plans to get back home. And then, we also knew that players had to get off campus right away. So we were allowed to have a team meeting with them on Friday morning, which we did. And it was basically just to rehash what had happened in the 48 hours leading to that team meeting. And I asked the players, I said, did any of you, that Friday morning, I asked the players, I said, did any of you have any concern or were worried in any way, shape, or form about playing in that game? And they all said absolutely not. They didn't worry about it, and they were ready to go, which is kind of why I felt a responsibility to be home with my kids. Because that age group, I was that age once upon a time. We don't tend to take these things as serious as we need to. And this is where the adults have to step in and protect young people from themselves sometimes. And but with all that said, by 2 p.m, they were all rolling. Every one of them was either headed to the airport or in their cars driving home. And I have not met with them about anything other than normal group text messages. I'm sometime this week. I've been communicating with some of them this morning, setting up times and all that. And little by little, there's no rush. It's not like we all got somewhere to go. There's no rush, but we need to figure out a way to have these conversations to continue to help them find peace, at least for the South Carolina side of things.
Frank, this is Pete again. Just talking about this team, I don't know how much you've gotten a chance to reflect on it with the abrupt end of the season and how things went, but you've told us from the start that you really like these guys, and they clearly got better from the start of the season to the end of the season, which is a hallmark of you guys. What do you think about most when you think about this team?
Pete, I liked them from day one. I liked them last summer. I liked them in preseason. Once you get in the season and you're dealing with games, and like I always like to say, we all sign up for it. We know that we're going to be judged on wins and losses from the outside, even though from the inside, that is the least of how we judge each other. I thought we handled things tremendously. There's things we could have done better. Yes. Unfortunately, we had to hit a reboot to our program after the Final Four. And I'm never going to get into specifics as to what I mean by that, but we had to kind of reboot. And the rebooting was started last year, which kind of makes us young again. And it is what it is. I mean, I'm not making an excuse. It is what it is. And when we got young again, then we're exposed a little bit to losing a couple games early, not because we're not talented, not because we're not trying, just because of the fact that we're young. And then we had to deal with some injuries. Keyshawn Bryant, I think everyone saw the way he finished the season. He was playing better in preseason. I went home almost every day saying Keyshawn's our best player the first 3 weeks of practice. And then he hurts his knee and we lose him for 5 weeks. Not just can't play games, can't practice. And he's a young man that needed repetitions for his growth. And and then and then we get him back, and now Jermaine hurts his back, and just when we're starting to play well, yeah, I get it. We lost to Stetson. I've heard it. Pete. Not only have I heard it from a lot of people, I heard it from my kids, I heard it from my staff, and I heard it from myself. I'd sit at home and yell at myself while staring at the ceiling because we lost a game that. Not that we had no business losing, but the game that we're supposed to win, and but it happens, and that's where we all, that are on the inside, we got to have patience when you have young guys, especially guys that you like and you care for. You can't allow winning and losing to impact that relationship, and then we started league play and we were rolling. I mean, right when Justin hurt his thumb against Missouri. I mean, we were on a roll. We were like, I think probably not sure if what I'm getting ready to say is true or not, but I think we had won 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6, with the majority of those being almost 20-point wins. We were playing at a high level, and I was coming home, and I kept telling my wife, like, we got a chance. This team's got a chance. We're starting to turn that corner. And then boom, we lose Justin, and then boom, we lose Jalen McCreary to a concussion, both at the same time. And and then I'm not gonna say we struggled. I mean, we went to Mississippi State. We're in a 1-point game with 8 seconds to go. Just couldn't win. Came home, played LSU, and we're in a fight with them. They're a real good team. They're an NCAA tournament team, and we just got beat. And we just didn't have enough, and then we go to Alabama and lose a 1-possession game, and and then we got Justin back at the end, and we beat Mississippi State.
This conference is being recorded.
Beat Mississippi State at home, so won double-digit league games again. I'm real proud of these guys. I'm excited for their growth this season. I was a little frustrated with some of the line of questioning towards the end of the year, because it was a disappointment. It was like we had no chance to go to the NCAA tournament. We're right there. We had to go into the conference tournament, figure out a way to win Thursday and Friday, and if we did, we're right in the conversation. And now we don't know, and some people want to call it a disappointing season. That's their prerogative. They have the right to make judgments as they please. It's not my place to force people to judge what they feel and what they believe. But I know this internally, I'm extremely excited. I'm proud of our guys. I'm proud of how they fought this year, our growth, where we're headed. And I truly in my heart believe that we're going to go into that SEC tournament and play really well and put ourselves right back in the middle of that whole tournament if we had been given the opportunity.
Following up on that reboot comment, and you kind of touched on it there at the end. Are you happy with where you are in that reboot process when you consider your roster right now and what you have coming in next year?
Oh, absolutely, John. I think we've got our classes kind of staggered in the right direction. We're probably a little too heavy in the freshman sophomore part, but that's not a bad thing. That means that for the next couple of years we got the same core guys in place, and we just have to do our jobs, and they got to do their jobs. Stay grounded, keep working, keep growing, keep getting better. But I'm really excited. Seventh Woods, who we haven't talked a lot about, for the reason that's what happens when you redshirt. You kind of go into which I thought that's why I thought redshirting for him be so good. He's been able to just kind of get away from that spotlight that he's been under since he was 12 years old, and just be at peace with his team and competing. And towards the end of our workouts, that last month of the season, he was starting to practice at a high level again, and I was excited for what I was seeing and the confidence that he was starting to show every day on the court, and the aggression that he was playing with. And you add him to what's in place that's coming back, and I think our 3 young big guys, and Jalen McCreary, Wildens Levesque, and Alonzo Frank, I thought Alonzo took a step forward as a player this year. The two freshmen, I think they both showed in spurts that they're both going to be really good players for us. And, Justin Minaya, I thought Justin was really starting to play really well again when he got himself hurt. I think you saw tremendous growth by Keyshawn. I mean, I want to say he had double-doubles in 3 of our last 4 games, which for a guy that never rebounded his freshman year, that's growth. That's a guy making, and it's not like he was rebounding against bad teams. It's he was doing it against high-level teams. And so, John, I'm in a really, really good place. The guys coming in, Patrick Iriel and excuse me, and Javon, those 2 guys are going to be, I think they're going to be really, really good players. Javon went out and won a 3rd consecutive state championship, and so I think we're in a really good place. I'm excited about the guys we're recruiting. I'm excited about the work ethic in place, the character. There's a lot of things in place. And does any of that guarantee winning? No. But I know this, when you have all those things in place, what matters is that guys continue to push themselves to grow and get better.
Hey, Frank, it's Phil Blue. 2 quick things. I know you haven't had your final conversations yet with your guys, but any inkling or indication to you from Lawson that he wants to address the NBA possibility again? And number 2, do you expect any staff changes in particular with Perry Clark?
You comfortable if I ask you a question back, or would you take that? Would you take that the wrong way?
Oh no.
I'm just curious why the question would be asked. Staff changes in reference to a specific member of my staff. Maybe you've heard something that I don't know.
I read it on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to ask whoever decided to put that on the internet, Phil. You might want to ask him that question. I have no idea why somebody would insinuate. I comprehend the staff question, but the specific person, I don't know why anybody would single out somebody. I've never. I don't know. I know we live in different times, and for me, for you, for fans, for everybody, I don't really comprehend that one. So I'm gonna. Other than what I've said, I'm not going to answer that part of your question. The AJ one, the AJ one, I'm gonna. He and I text this morning. We're supposed to get in a conference call with Mom, Dad, him. I know AJ and the family is at peace with him being in college. It's not like he's running away from college. It's not like he can't wait to get away from here. It's not like I have to be in the NBA. None of that's part of the equation with him. What I do know is the following, that because of the environment that we're in right now, it's made it really difficult for people like AJ. Because when you have the opportunity to go to these private workouts, you can kind of convince people that you're their guy. When you have the opportunity to have these in-person interviews that go on for a whole day, you can convince people that I am the kind of human being that you want in your organization. And then you have the combine perspective, where if you're good enough to be invited to the combine, you get another opportunity to compete against 60 other very good players to show that you don't need to convince all 30 whatever teams. You just need one general manager to say, he's the guy. And it's starting to sound and look like none of that's going to be a possibility this year for guys. So that's going to be part of the equation for AJ's decision. So that's something that we'll address whenever I have that conversation with his family this week.
Thank you, Frank. It's Dave again. I was just looking at, you mentioned the injuries. How much have those injuries these past 3 years really just, I don't want to say delayed the progress, but how much has it hindered, how good those teams could be?
Dave, that you came across like so much nicer this time than last time. Like you just broke the ice like right away. I mean, holy cow. Dave, it's been but even the Final Four year, we dealt with injuries the whole year. I mean, PJ falls asleep on the airplane headed to Kentucky, and he hurts his neck. I mean, it's Hassani. The Final Four year has mono. Felder hurts his knee, and then he hurts his ankle. It's never ended. Then you go to the following year, and Corey Holden just shreds his hamstring, and he never recovers from it. Hassani turns an ankle, and now we're playing games with Wes Myers and David Beatty as our only two real guards, the only two guys that can dribble a ball against any kind of defense, and it's never ended. It's continued for the last 3 years or whatever, and but it is what it is. It's you can't cry about it, you can't whine about it. I talk to you guys about it because it's part of our journey, but we don't ever go into practice and put our head down. Or number one, the guy gets hurt if we go in there dragging. They feel worse about it. Now they feel like pressured, like they have to come back before they're healthy, and that's not fair to them. And then the ones that aren't that are healthy, that aren't hurt, if you go in there and you engage that conversation in any way, shape, or form from a negative standpoint, now they feel like they're not good enough, and you don't trust in them, and that's not fair to them because we've recruited them too. So we got to adapt and got to keep our spirits strong, and that's the way we try to manage it. I'd like to get through 1 year where we don't go through a plethora of injuries, and just see what I've been through it. I've been through years like that before I got to South Carolina. I just want one of those years again where we can knock on wood, keep everyone on the court from day one, and not lose so many. It's not just the games; it's the practice time. So you're running practices, and all of a sudden you're down two guys. You lose a certain competitive edge in practice, and that impacts the development of the team. So, all we can do, and all the injuries, they're not. Corey's been the only soft tissue injury that we've had. All our injuries have been, knees and ankles, and that's unfortunately that's kind of part of basketball, or off the court stuff. The concussions, knees, ankles, and concussions, and then the off the court stuff. Mono, strep throat. I mean, it's incredible. It's I almost said something that would have got me in a lot of trouble. Back in the day, I could have said it. Now you say in today's day and age, it gets me in trouble. So I'm glad I didn't have a Freudian slip there real quick. But with the strep throat and the mono and all that stuff, all we can do is keep talking to our players and hoping that they don't get sick.
Frank, it's Colin again. I guess you kind of talked about Pat and Javon a little bit, but kind of how do you see them fitting into this equation next year? And I guess on the recruiting front now, how are you guys approaching things when you guys can't get out and go see players and kind of evaluate?
Yeah, it's this is the way we used to recruit, where we spent time on the phone and then watched a lot of film at this time of year I'm talking about. Watch a lot of film, and then when we could get out, go see them at their high school. And we were limited there, but this is how we used to do it. So from that standpoint, we've had to just go old fashioned, for lack of better words. I'm really happy with the guys we're recruiting. We spent a lot of time doing a lot of background work and kind of making sure that they're the kind of guys that we want to bring around here. That we want to, listen, talent is great on game day, but talent with a bad deal, you live with each other for 6 months, 7 days a week. If you bring guys in that don't want to get along with people, it gets to a place where it gets real uncomfortable to be around them every single day. So it's not just talent. We spend a lot of time and because we try to we put so much emphasis on community service and academics in the weight room, in accountability with how we look out for each other off the court, that we can't just bring talented guys that are about themselves, or it doesn't work. At least for us, it doesn't work. Other people can manage it however they want to manage things. For us, it doesn't work. And then with Patrick and Javon, I think those two guys, they both just turned 18 since the calendar changed. So they're young in comparison to most freshmen in today's day and age. They both play for tremendous high school coaches. And Josh Staley, sorry about that. My phone will not stop buzzing as we're talking here. But they both play for tremendous high school coaches that have been prepared. Javon obviously has won 3 consecutive state championships, and then they're who they're going to be when they both run. They both have great footwork. They both have really good hands. They both have the ability to become very good shooters. Javon has Javon reminds me a lot of a guy we had at Cincinnati named Jason Maxiel. He's in that 6'7", 6'8" range, but he's got tremendous length. I mean, he's like 7'4" in his reach, which, like I always say, that's what matters in basketball. They're both going to be 240-pound when they get around Scott Greenewalt and get in our weight program. They're both going to be 240, 50-pound players that can run, move their feet, which means that they fit in our defensive concepts. They're both shot blockers. So now we've got Wildens, them two. Jalen, I think, is going to be a pretty darn good shot blocker. Justin and Keyshawn have shown the ability to be contesters of shots. They're as they progress as players. I think they're going to add tremendous things to what we do. Now we're going to have to be patient with teaching them how to play with their backs to the basket because they both play in ball screen systems, so they understand how to ball screen and all that, which is fine. And we have to be patient in teaching them how to play with their backs to the basket, but I think they bring a lot to the table. I'm excited. I'm really happy with our roster and the guys that are in place.
Hey, Frank, it's John. Getting back from the state again. You mentioned this a little bit earlier, but with your guys kind of all spread out, and you talking to them, have you had to talk any of them out of trying to go find a gym, trying to find a place to get shots up, just because they kind of want to, and they're sort of, I'm sure, bouncing off the walls as well?
Well, last week I just kind of let them be with their families, and this week I'm going to be, because I'm dealing with it with my own son who's starting to get over anxious with that stuff. So I that's the one thing. I don't know if it's an advantage, but when you have your own child that's in college and he's also a college athlete, he's no different than the guys that are playing for me right now. And usually the stuff that challenges my players or what challenges my son, and what challenges my son is what challenges my players. And so I'm starting to sense that from my son. So I think I've got to be a little bit more aggressive with that conversation with them this week, just to give them a place of peace and understanding that this is not the time to get over anxious.
Frank, it's John. Getting back to Alonzo real quick, is that the same knee that he cleaned up 2 years ago, or is it a different knee? And when did he start feeling this discomfort?
It's the same knee. It's 2 years ago. He tore cartilage, and he had to get. I don't know if it's saying getting it repaired, because it's not like there was reattached or anything. It's just go in there and kind of take that piece of cartilage it tore out. Now it's just a cleanup. It's more of a maintenance deal. It started bothering him in December, but he got through the year. It never It wasn't a situation where the knee was swelling up, so we couldn't practice him and just playing in games. It's just kind of a maintenance deal that he has to go through just to just make sure that that there's no more tearing of the cartilage. I as a non-doctor / trainer, I think that's the best way I can express it.
Frank, this is Jeff again. You mentioned Seventh Woods. Having spent a year with him now, how do you see him fitting into the guys you have coming back, and what kind of player you think he could be?
You see, when I recruited Seventh in high school, the part nobody ever wanted to talk about was what a great teammate he is. He you know, I remember going to Hammond and here's you know, here's this kid that everyone's telling the world how great he is, yet his teammates and his coaches just really, really enjoyed being around him. And that's the thing that attracted me the most to him. Wasn't his talent, wasn't his jumping, wasn't his dunking, wasn't his YouTube videos, it wasn't his passing and shooting. It was a combination of all those things and who he was as a teammate. That's what got me excited about him. And you know, and it's been no different since he got here. Our younger players really, really respect him, and he's developed real good relationships with his teammates. And then in practice, I always thought, and you know, Mark McClam, his high school coach at Hammond, and I always spoke about this 5 years ago, and now we talk about it a lot more because now he's playing for us. I've always thought Seventh could be like an unbelievably good on-ball defender because he's got unbelievable athleticism, he's got instincts, and he's got toughness. And now after having him practice for a year, my thoughts, my visions have been reinforced. I think he's going to be a great defender. Offensively, he's going to give us another guy that, just like Jermaine, that can play off the dribble and get into the lane and make plays for others. He's a pass-first guy, always has been. So we have to work really hard at get him because he had lost his aggressiveness to score. He when he got here last June, he had lost that passion to go get a basket. But over the last, like I said, month of the season in practice, he was coming downhill and being aggressive, starting to make jump shots, which as he continues to trust that, and it's gonna allow him to be even better because people are gonna have to come out and guard him, which then he can use that feel and athleticism to get by people.
Frank, it's Colin again. I guess I'll ask a scholarship question, but you guys are currently 1 over right now. How are you guys approaching that? And I guess when you're recruiting, I know you guys still recruit the upcoming class of the 2020. How are you guys kind of going about that with what your current situation is?
Yeah, I told Phil, I did a spot on the radio with him the other day, and I told him that before we signed everyone that we signed and the whole thing, and there's a plan in place to make sure that we're 13 when the school year starts next year. I'm not going to make that plan available right now. There's been one in place from the word go, and when the time comes, we get closer to next year, then I'll let everyone else in as to what that plan was. But from a recruiting standpoint, at this time last year, I'd had my end of year meetings, and I felt real good that our whole team was coming back. And like a week later, I find out Jason Cudd's not coming. But the fact that our staff had been actively recruiting, and I had engaged when the season ended in helping them actively recruit guys, even though we did not have a scholarship, allowed us to get Jalen McCreary to commit to a visit the day after Jason Cudd told me he was leaving, and we had already built such a good relationship with Jalen that he committed shortly after. And then later on in the semester, Felipe comes in and out of left field just tells me that he's going to leave too. And it's not that he was unhappy, just like Jason. They're not unhappy. They really liked it here. They enjoyed it. They were having a great time. But they felt for different reasons that they needed to go somewhere else. And I'm not going to fight people that feel that way. I'm not going to convince people. If I got to convince somebody after living with them, I got to convince them that they still need to keep living with us, then it's not going to be as good a relationship as it needs to be moving forward. So when guys feel that they need to go for whatever reasons, I fully support it. I don't fight it. And the fact that we had been actively recruiting once again, then allowed us to go find and sign Micaiah Henry. So it's all part of it in the landscape that we live in right now in the world of recruiting. You have to, and the players know it. The guys you're recruiting, they know it. So you got to continue to recruit because you never know what's going to happen as you go through the spring and into the summer.
Frank, Dave again. You've been a guy that's been pretty active on Twitter and social media, that kind of thing. And obviously in today's world, that's how a lot of folks communicate. My question is, as a coach, how easy or frustrating is it to hear a lot of the criticism when you guys lose a game, or to hear the talk about not making any more NCAA tournaments than you have? How frustrating is that to deal with?
Well, that's why if you actually, I think you follow me pretty closely on social media, Dave. During the season, I try to stay out of that, away from that. I don't read stuff. I might post something, which is not very often during the season, but I stay away from reading, at least the mentions or whatever people are saying about me or our team. I might go in and read some national news, or I might read what some of the recruits that we're recruiting or putting on there are our players, but I stay away from the gossip. So I don't read it when we win, so I feel good. So I equally don't read it when we lose because I know the feeling is going to be the complete opposite. Now that the season's over, I've been a little bit more active on social media the last 5, 6, 7 days, and I probably have been in the last 5 months. I try to stay away from it during the season, Dave, because I can't get. My job is not to please people that don't know me. It never has been, and it never will be. My job is not to convince people that don't like me or how we play to like us. My job is to coach my players. My job is to fulfill the belief that Ray Tanner, Harris Bastides, and Bob Caslin now. That they have in me. Our board of directors, those guys have signed off on me being their basketball coach for 8 years, and they believe in me. They believe in our staff. So my job is to make sure that I fulfill those guys' belief in me. And that's the way I look about it. That's the way I go about it. I don't look for outside world reinforcement, and I don't really care what the outside world critics have to say. Never have, never will. I'm a human being. If I got wrapped up in reading all that stuff, I'd probably get real happy and real mad. And which kind of it's kind of the world we live in right now. Think about it, Dave, and what we're going through this moment right now as a country. If we watch television and the news, it's not about how to fix what we're dealing with. It's not about coaching us to deal with winning this game. It's about blaming one or another to see who screwed everything up as to why we're in this situation to start with. So the outside world is a complicated place right now, and I try to stay away from it and keep my energies where it matters, which is the people believe in what we do, which is our players, the people I answer to, and then at the end of the day, line up and win games, and that's where I try to keep all my energies at.
And with that, as we inch closer to an hour, we'll go with 3 more questions.
With that, Frank, I mean, just as a coach from basketball, how frustrating is it to not be in the NCAA tournament, more than the one time that you guys got there?
Well, I mean, if anyone thought we were going to go to the NCAA tournament our first 3 years here, they were fooling themselves. We had no chance my first 2 years. No chance. There's no way that. I mean, I could have flipped it, Dave, but I could have flipped it, and I still wouldn't be the coach here because I would have done it a certain way that the people I answered to would not have supported. So I couldn't flip it because I wasn't going to cheat to get certain kind of players in here. I wasn't going to look the other way and allow certain behaviors to take place just because guys are good players. I just wasn't going to do that. And then you move forward, and so now year 3 we're starting to turn the corner. Year 4 I get it. We went to the NIT, and you can't change history. You can't change what was done, but that team was cheated. That team deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. And then as we move forward, the NCAA, the year we went to the NCAA, it was awesome. But unfortunately, the year before, we had the BB gun situation, which is probably my most disappointing moment as a college basketball coach, is that we had that issue. And from that issue, we lost 3 players. And there were 3 freshmen. So now we go into the Final Four, and now you graduate the core of your team, and PJ decides to declare, which I fully supported then and I fully support now. We weren't prepared to absorb the loss of a McDonald All-American. And then the guys that we had in place that we thought were going to be good for us and would help us go through that, and Rakim Felder, Corey Holden, neither one of them pans out for different reasons as we got away from that year. So that's when I said reboot. That's part of what I was talking about. So we had to reboot our team. And anytime you're in a reboot or a rebuild, you're not going to the NCAA tournament. I think this year we're right there. And like I said earlier, people want to say we had no chance. That's their prerogative. I'm glad I don't live life like they do in that way of pessimistic ways or whatever. I truly believed that we were right there, and we were going to Nashville, and our team was going to lay it on the line, and they were excited about what was in front of us, not going in there worried or depressed because we were going to fail. On the contrary, we were at a real good place. So, but I get it. It's, we live in a place where you're either in the NCAA tournament or you're not. And if you're not, everyone considers you a failure. And anybody that wants to judge us on that, I get it. But I can also sit down over a cup of coffee and argue with anybody as to why our program is in a much better place now than it was 8 years ago, and why we're primed to start having consistent success again.
Frank, this is Pete. Not this weekend. I guess next weekend would have been the Final Four. As far as the business of college basketball and college coaches goes, maybe you, certainly lots of other coaches, would have been down in Atlanta, just meeting each other, renewing acquaintances. How much does this maybe take away from the business of young guys, perhaps, looking to move up and things like that? How important is that, those few days when the college basketball world and coaches get together at the Final Four site?
Yeah. I mean, it's a time of year where most coaches, high school, college, all levels, we all come together. You get to spend time with guys that you compete against, guys that you've recruited from, guys that you just respect them in their walk of life in this business, and you get to just spend, whether it's 20 minutes outside a hotel like I did with Rick Byrd last year, who's not somebody I spent a lot of time with, but somebody I highly respected, and he was retiring. So it was, whether it's those 20 minutes with Rick Byrd outside of the hotel, or it's with guys I know inside and out like Andy Kennedy and Bob Huggins, and we can sit down at dinner and spend 4 hours rehashing the same stories that we've lived together. It brings a sense of peace and joy to all of us, and respect to all of us in this business. So not having that is it's going to be a void that we can't fill, because it's just not going to be there, and we're not going to be able to replace it this year. But also in the business of sports, all the schools like us at South Carolina, we our schools get a lot of money from our leagues because of college football. But the majority of the schools in the NCAA, Division I, that is, a lot of their budgets are filled from the NCAA basketball tournament. And that's money that's not coming across this year. So I'm worried about, there's 50 of us that 50, 60 schools maybe that get like ridiculously big checks from college football. But the other 300 schools, they depend on the NCAA basketball tournament for the distribution of funds to make ends meet. I'm worried about all those schools and the challenges that are in front of them once we get away from what we're dealing with right now.
Frank, putting Jermaine
Anybody have
into
a
the
last
starting
question?
lineup. Yeah, one more, Emily, if you don't mind.
Yep, that's good.
Frank, it's John again. Putting Jermaine into the starting lineup and making him your point guard for the last 16 games of the season, and seeing the way he played going into the rest of his career, do you envision that being his role, his spot?
I mean, if you look back to the best teams I've ever coached, whether it's been in high school, at Kansas State, or here at South Carolina, having multiple players with his personality is needed. And when we've had that, we've given ourselves a chance to win at a high level and compete at a high level and compete for national championships, which we have at both schools, state championships, which I did in high school, and then obviously conference championships, which we were a lot closer at K-State than we've been here, but we haven't been that far off here either. So it's he whether he's at the point or the two. If he's at the two, that means somebody has a real good personality and a talent to displace him. Then we're a better basketball team. If he's at the one, then whoever's at the two is going to consistently be a better player because he's at the one. So that's a dynamic that moving forward, I think we got multiple options there. The fact that him and AJ, I thought, meshed real good together, given all the other guys that we got that can play those places, it'll be better players next year. And the addition of Seventh Woods, I'm really, really happy with the guys we got in place to compete with and against Jermaine for that point guard job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.